We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Look at that. That's beautiful. It's got to be one of the most proud moments of my life, I guarantee you.
Hi folks, John Cordisco back again with another great chess video for you. This is a huge game. Could be a prelude or a preseason hint at what's coming this November. It's between Magnus Carlsen, #1 rated player in the world, championship challenger this November, as white, and Vishy Anand, current world champion, as black. Magnus is 2864 rated, and Vishy Anand is 2786. Much anticipated game. I think you're going to like it. It's a great game. This is round 5 of the 8th annual Tal Memorial, played on Tuesday, June 18th, 2013. Rather than hear my ramblings, let's go on with the game. It's going to be a Nimzo Indian, which surprised me a little bit. It's a solid opening. Unfortunately, Magnus isn't known for his in-depth opening play. In a lot of ways, he doesn't need it. I think what his weakness is endgame play, but that's just me. When I say weakness, weakness for him. For us mere mortals, he's darn near Superman. C4, E6, knight to C3, bishop to B4, E3, castles. Now that's a new move, or I should say an old new move. Remember watching some of the game earlier on ICC, and some of the commentators were talking about that. It blocks the late squared bishop in, at least temporarily. D5. Now, like I normally do, I have my Fritz 13 computer running off screen, and it's basically 0.00. So, in all fairness to Vishy, who's playing black, you're on move 5 against two of the best players in the world, and you've already reached equality. So I consider that a victory for black. A3, bishop E7, C takes, knight takes, bishop to D2, knight to D7, and G3. What that kind of does is later down the road, it prevents the black pawns from coming up. B6, knight takes, E takes, bishop G2. It's an interesting setup. Now, we still can see that black's light square bishop is still not developed, but he'll probably come to here. But he's kind of biting against granite against his own pawn. Also, too, depending how this works out, this file, especially the pawn on c7, is going to be gone after by white. That c7 pawn is going to be problematic to try to save. It's going to do a lot of maneuvering to keep it there. Bishop to b7, bishop to b4. Kind of the same deal. If bishop takes, pawn comes up. And this pawn here is in a tough spot. Knight to f6. Castles by white. It's basically an even game. An infinitesimal tiny advantage for white. Rook to e8. Rook to c1. c6. Bishop takes. Finally, white just couldn't leave the bishop there any longer. Rook takes. Now, if you notice, at least for a while, this light squared bishop is kind of biting on granite. And when I say biting on granite, I mean his opponent's pawns, his own pawns. Rook to e1. Queen to d6. Knight to f4. Now, that's a good spot for that knight. It's going to be almost impossible to chase him off, being there's a light squared bishop, and you're going to have to move this pawn, and the pawns around your king shouldn't be moved unless they absolutely have to be. So that's a good spot for that knight. Bishop to c8. Now, Anand is rerouting his light squared bishop. Queen to a4. Interesting might have been, or excuse me, Queen to a4, rook to c7. Interesting might have been bishop to back to b7. But it's hard when somebody moves a piece like that to move him back and waste a tempo like that. But I think in that case, it should have been at least looked at. f3. Bishop to e6. e4. D takes. F takes. Interesting, instead of d takes, e4 for black, is queen to d7. And after knight takes, f takes, bishop h3 would have been something to consider. After d takes c4 for black, f takes, queen to d7, and now comes a really, really good move for Magnus. Is d5. I'll give you an idea. Just 3 moves ago, it was about 3/4 of a pawn advantage for white. Now it's currently over almost 2 pawns advantage, which is huge for these guys. It's a very forceful move. C takes, queen takes, rook takes. Let's go back here. After queen takes d7, oh, kind of messed up my computer a little bit. Sorry about that, folks. After queen takes d7, rook takes d7. If black had played d takes instead, or excuse me, knight takes instead, rook takes, knight to f6, of course, is the disaster for black. F takes, e takes. White is up a whole rook. After rook takes d7, knight takes c6. F takes c6. Bishop to h3, pinning that e-pawn. King to h8. e5. Knight to g8. Bishop takes. Rook. If rook had gone to e7 instead, bishop takes pawn. Rook to d8. Still a disaster. Rook to c7. d4. If you'd have gone g6 instead, it would have been rook to f1, knight to h6, and bishop to h3. After d4, bishop to d7, and Vishy Anand, the current world champion, resigns. Excuse me, I'm a little hoarse throat today. Let's go back a little bit, being the game was so short, to, I think it'd be a good place to go, would be move 16 for white, rook to e1. Where did Vishy go wrong? Well, let's go through it. Queen to d7, knight to f4. What I'm doing now is I'm going along with the computer off screen just to get an idea. Bishop to c8 might not have been a very accurate move, but it was still a halfway decent one. Queen to a4, rook to c7. We're trying to see where Vishy went wrong. f3, bishop to e6, I think, was the beginning of his problems. e4. Now let's stop here for a moment and look. Vishy played d takes e4, and I think to keep him in the game, he had to sidestep that and had to go c5. I think that was more than worth considering. I think he should have looked at it hard. Or queen to d7, I think, instead of c5. Now the score currently on move 20 e4 is about 3/4 of a pawn advantage for white. After d takes e4, it jumps up pretty high to almost a point and a half. I think that was Vishy's mistake. It doesn't deserve a question mark, but I think a person of his level should have saw that. And after f takes, queen to d7 was the beginning of the end. And we'll go through it again, just the rest of the game. d5, c takes, queen takes, rook takes, knight takes, f takes, bishop h3, king h8, e5, knight moves, bishop takes e6, rook to d8. It's just too much. d4, and bishop to d7. Just to give you an idea of what was in store for Vishy the rest of the game, the computer suggests knight to e7, rook to d1, h6, rook takes, knight to g6, rook to e4, here comes the pawn, knight to e7. There really is nothing better, either that or f8, one of the two. I like f8 better. Pawn, of course, to protect. Knight takes, e takes, rook to f8, the rook has to move. Rook to f4, rook to g8, no other place to go. Now you get doubled up rooks here. This rook has to move. Rook takes. It's such a disaster. And you can see why Vishy resigned. Heck of a game by Magnus. Even though I think he played a poor opening, I think he let black equalize too soon. Maybe Vishy was just having a bad day. Anyway, folks, that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm very much looking forward to this November's championship match. I'm going to try to analyze all the games, even if they're quiet draws. Excuse me, I got a little hoarse throat today. Remember, folks, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And I hope to see all of you in the next video. And please comment and please subscribe. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Look at that. That's beautiful. It's got to be one of the most proud moments of my life, I guarantee you.